I want to share with you a story about myself. I've spent a lot of time in the news and media in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. But now, as an associate literary agent, I have authors asking me every day, how can I get coverage about my book or new release? Or how can I get on the latest radio show, talk show, news media outlet, blogs, in the papers, and so on? Well, what I want to say to you is I want to walk you through a journey of what worked even 5 years ago doesn't work now. And what worked 10 years ago definitely is not working now. So we have to be adaptable to the changing times. So I want to walk you through simple ways that you can get media. Now, the challenge that people often say is, how can I? Or I have this great book, or I have this New York Times bestseller. And it's not about I, it's about you. It's about what can you offer that reporter or news reporter or columnist or blogger that will bring value to their audience. What is their audience looking for? So let's walk through the steps of putting together a proper news release. The word news is defined as timely events and or situations with extraordinary interest or impact to a specific audience. The five factors that determine what makes something newsworthy are: 1, timing; 2, impact; 3, proximity; 4, human interest; 6, prominence; and 7, conflict. I'm going to break those down a little further. For example, catastrophic events or large natural disasters are almost always considered newsworthy because they're impacting a situation now. It's a current event. When it comes to proximity, a house fire in your city might be considered newsworthy, while a house fire in a different country is not. So you need to know what you're going to break apart and how you're going to market yourself. And I'm going to dive into that even further. So the prominence of a person or a position may also play a role. A baby born to a famous person often makes headlines, while the birth of your grandchild probably will not. So you need to find your niche. And the best way that I do this is by building relationships. And we're going to go over that. Write your news release in an inverted pyramid style. The news writing this means that the first paragraph contains the most interesting part of your story, but don't say your story. Say, this could impact your viewers because. That's where you want to go with the angling of this. Then add a supporting detail, decreasing in order of importance. A press release should always include the following information: who, what, where, when, why, and now. Write the purpose of a clear goal in mind. What are you trying to accomplish? Do you want to alert the public about a specific event that's occurring? How is that event going to benefit those that are attending? Are you hoping the reporter will write about something that's happening in your area? Are you hoping the reporter wants to, feature you in their report? Knowing what you are trying to achieve is essential to creating effective press releases. When writing a news release, also consider your audience. Avoid using specific jargons that they may be unrelated to. Keep it very oriented. I'll give an example. Equestrian. Using words like prestidigitator. The reporter may not know that a prestidigitator It could be a magician that works with his hands and does magic tricks. So you'd want to just break it down. I am a magician. I am somebody who does magic for children. Leave it simple and to the point. That's avoiding jargon. Explain the concept that might be unfamiliar to the news reporters without using fancy jargon. News release affects, reflects, and acts. Let's go over this. You may want to write the information that contains the media relations to get more information about preparing and sharing the news release or press release. Consider writing the news release about a recent event or activity sponsored by yourself or your club that you belong to. And by doing this, it's highlighting what are you providing to the community? What value added service are you making? Which local reporters may be interested in the news release? If the event is too old to publish in local media, consider sharing a success story on social media. And that's something that is a good way for news reporters to find out about information that you may be doing in the future. The best way to captivate a news's attention is Twitter. Twitter is picked up by news reporters all over, where a reporter may not go to Facebook to look for news. They'll go to Twitter to see what's happening and what's trending on Twitter. That's where Twitter comes in mind. So you want to make every contact an opportunity. When you meet a reporter, there's websites like Help a Reporter Out that allow you to, sift through what they're looking for. You want to become their friend, but you never want to say just between you and I, or just between us, or this is off the record. But you want to be their friend. And by developing that rapport, when you do have a new release or something that is newsworthy, you're going to have already established yourself in that genre. So that reporter is going to be more likely to trust you and use you going forward. You may want to write the information contained in advance and say, I feel this is something that would be valued to your viewers. Use words of empowerment rather than I would like you to cover ... Use words that share emotion, that they see value on. So, with local reporters may be interested in your release. If an event is too old, it's not something that they're going to want to pick up. Or if you published a book 10 years ago and you're looking to get press on it and it's not timely, they're not going to want to talk to you about that. If you wrote a book about Pluto, the planet, but then I have an example of a friend who owns a publicist firm, and she has a doctor who wrote an entire book about Pluto, and she's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get this guy publicity or PR, press in the news? Well, it just so happened that the next day it was announced that Pluto was no longer a planet. So he had all these angles that they could take. So these interactions can also be opportunities to strengthen your relationship with reporters and editors. Anticipate media requests. If you know of an up-and-coming event or book launch or anything that you would like to have announced, or other reasons the media might contact you, be ready to take their call. The worst thing you could do is say, I'll get back to you, and you don't, but they have a deadline. It's 4:00 and they have to be live at 5. So see what you can do at all costs to take what they want if you're looking to get into the media. Think through how you will respond to prepare relevant information. For example, if a flood would happen in your area and you're asked to talk about it, what value can you add to that? But let's go into this even further. Um, I myself prefer live interviews. And the reason why is there's a thing called segue questions. If somebody brings me on a live interview, I have better control over how my narrative is going to be. If I'm there to talk about um, an expert in social media and they say, "Oh, Dennis, I hear you are involved in X, Y, and Z," and it's not what I want to say, I would say, "Oh, Dennis, that's a great point," always addressing the reporter by name. Let's turn this, let's talk about why we're actually here today and bring it back to the current situation. I'm going to do a whole video on segue questions down the road. So, but determining the response, why, while we always try to be helpful, we might not accept all requests for interviews or statements. Every media request requires you to decide whether you want to participate, and if so, why, in what way. You can also ask for help from your friends. Say, "Hey, I don't know if I should do this." I'm going to give you a perfect example of this. When I was first called by a national talk show to appear in 1990 in front of 20 million people, I at first said, no, thanks. And it wasn't until I shared with my high school social worker and my high school guidance counselor that I was contacted by this national talk show. And they said, "We think your story needs to be told." So that caused me to call the producer back and say, I would like to discuss this further. So know what you want to achieve before you jump into this, and have a level head. Make every interaction with a journalist as a positive one. Let's respond with a "thank you so much for calling. However, I don't think this is for me at this time." Or, "How can I help you?" This is not to say that you can do what every reporter asks. If you do receive a request from a reporter, handle it with a reflect and act type of mentality. Consider the news story and issues in the local community. Which current issues may prompt a reporter to ask for information? What kind of information are they looking for? What information could you prepare in advance in case you are considered for the issue in that specific area? Let's go over details, purpose, and angles of a request. When a journalist calls you, learn as much as you can about what he or she has in mind, what the topic is, and what angle the reporter is looking to take, what the purpose of the piece is, and so on. This is commonly called vetting media. And so many people get so caught up, and "I got called by the media and I just am going to jump at it." You don't need to take every call that you get or jump at everything. As you talk to a reporter, consider using some of the following questions. What piqued your interest in the topic? What insight are you hoping to share with your audience? What do you hope this story will do for your audience and viewers? Who else are you talking with? Why did you select those voices for your story, if that pertains to the particular situation? Asking additional questions to further clarify as needed. If you have any, for the journalist, this sets you apart as an authoritative figure within your genre or niche. Reaching out to the journalist and the outlets. Find out more about the journalists and media outlets. This will give your audience additional clues about the direction that the story may take. Always research the reporter. Search for articles written by the journalist or that have been in the media. You can reach out to producers. Look at journalists' social media posts and look for answers for those questions. Now, there's several things to take into consideration. Who is their primary audience? What has the journalist written about in issues previously? What themes are evident that are evident in this reporting process? These are all key factors to take into consideration. What attitudes about a specific genre or situation does this journalist or media outlet seem to have? Also, be sure to refer to Google and look up their information. So, you are always on record. Be aware that even if you say to the person you're interviewing, this is off the record, or you think it is, you are always on the record. Vet your media request. Reflect and act. If you have asked recent contacts or had recent contacts with this reporter, think about that interaction. How did you vet the reporter for the interview? What could have you done differently or better to understand the angle of the story? Now we're going to go into shaping the story. A reporter may have an idea for a story that is very different from the story you would like to tell. But remember that you are not at the mercy of the reporter or journalist. This is very important to take into consideration. And think about what you're going to say. And I say, be prepared. And it's okay to say, you know what? I don't have the answer to that at this time. So if you found this helpful or insightful, please share this on your social media platforms and give it a thumbs up and like and subscribe. I have a whole playlist in here that could help and assist you. I thank you for watching, and I'm Dennis Schleicher.